And welcome back to Pop Culture Kaboom Radio Show on 95.1 FM KNBC in the greater Carson City / Reno area and live streamed to the world at knbc.org. And my next guest is inventor with 17 patents to his name, engineer, podcaster, author, master of martial arts, was played by George Clooney in the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, and will be featured on an upcoming episode of the Travel Channel's A Strange World. All of that, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm talking about Dr. Peter Brusso. And how are you, sir? Mr. Brusso.
And I'm doing great, thank you.
I am pronouncing your name correctly, right? Brusso?
Brusso.
Hey.
Brusso. Yep.
I got pretty lucky with that one.
Yeah, get an award for that.
I'm horrible with phonics sometimes, and it's like, yeah. So, so I just out of curiosity, with everything that you've done in your life, are you collecting royalties from Dos Equis beer for being the most interesting man in the world?
I only wished I was. I love Dos Equis beer, by the way. You know, shameless plug for them.
So how did you, I mean, because everything that I mentioned, you're also a pilot. You have some of your patents are for vending machines, for the Defender's knife. I mean, you got all these things going on. I kind of want to start at the beginning here. How did you get into doing all of these things? What prompted the start of all of this?
Well, I was 6 years old on the kindergarten. I think it was either kindergarten or first grade, and I met a bully, and I didn't like that. And so I came home and asked my father, who was a Golden Gloves boxer at one time, to teach me to box. And my grandfather superseded and said, no, I don't think so. And they got me into a judo class at age 6, which was illegal at the time. And the class was literally taught at a feed store in the back behind the hay. So that's how it all got started. And then, of course, went to engineering school and did a lot of patents. And if you see the rotating signs that are down on the court side in the NBA, those are all mine. And my partner, Anthony Simpson, we both did those. And went into baseball and hockey, and off we go. Yeah.
Wow. And you did something for a vending machine? You basically revolutionized the vending machine industry?
Yes, we did that second. Yes, we did. Basically, a vending machine, a glass front machine, takes about 100 people to make it profitable. Route drivers get in there. It takes an hour to get their money and replenish it and clean it. And we changed the industry to bottled water, where they're in and out in 2.5 minutes, which dramatically changed the scope of the vending machine industry. And then I spent 6 months in China getting that all manufactured. And I guess we probably have 80,000 units in now. Our units only cost $500 versus a glass front at $2,500. So we hit them on two spaces. But yeah, so we did that.
Wow. And the Defender's knife, which actually is can it really be considered a knife, or is it more like just a tool?
It's a tool.
Okay.
It's a tool. It's not a knife. Yeah, it's a tool. And the Defenders came about 2004. I'm working with the Marine Corps, and my teacher came into town and said, hey, look at this little piece of plastic thing. And ninjas work off of pressure points quite often, and this was just super. The idea was there. The initial tool fell far short of what it needed to do. And then I asked my teacher if I could have the ability to engineer it. And we have 11 versions later. One of these was also very prevalent in the Crazy Rulers of the World with John Ronson, which then led us into the Goats movie, and it's in the Goats movie where Clooney plays me. And then it got on the Heroes channel, American Heroes channel. We were Codes and Conspiracies Season 2, Episode 6, where they asked me to go full speed with this tool, and I did. And one of my guys, Kerry Lewis, Sensei, who's been with me for 30 years, we knew it was going to be an ugly thing, and it got bloody enough that the crew actually asked us to stop because they were sick to their stomach.
What were you cutting up?
I wasn't cutting anything. I mean, this tool just, by its nature, draws blood. That's it, So, and we were wiping it off. We were pretty nice about it all, but they wanted me to go high speed against a gun and a knife, and okay, I have no problem with that. Neither one of us do. So we're a little different from that standpoint, but we found out very quickly that they got nauseated, so we had to wait for them to get their stomach back in place, and we continued on, which shocked the both of us. But then again, when you teach the Marines, I teach over 200,000 Marines a year. They're tough guys. I mean, you bleed a little bit, no big deal. Keep on going. But that was quite the case in Burbank.
Yeah, that's the difference between Marines and cameramen. So in Burbank, so
I learned an important thing there. We had a similar event with the Travel Channel out here, although it was Heat. Heat got one of the guys, and we took care of him. But so that's kind of sort of how that got started.
So the Travel Channel came out to shoot you for an episode of Strange World, and you end up rescuing one of their crew members from heat exhaustion.
Yes, and then some. I guess I should know better by now, but it's 85 degrees in the desert, and that's nothing for us. But it certainly seemed to hit this one guy, and about halfway through, they did three things, Jimmy. They wanted to know that they had an interview session with me. A dance group came in on Friday, and my house is full of weapons and gorgeous places to shoot, but for whatever reason, they decided not to shoot inside. They want to shoot outside. Okay, fine. And so I said, I'm not standing out there on the pavement for 3 hours. Let's get some chairs out there or something. And he didn't like that idea too well. But anyway, we did what we had to do. And let me back up. They sent me all these legalese documents. I mean, I was getting over inundated before they got here with sign this, sign that, 3-page legalese. So I turned around and sent them my disclaimer, which is only 1 page, 5 paragraphs. And every paragraph it says, you could die. Death, death, death. Well, that freaked them out. I was just trying to throw them back across the line. And that freaked them out. And they said, we're going to have to hire paramedics for the guys. I said, no. We're all capable of taking care of them. I'm an EMT, and all of us are medically trained to a large extent, battlefield medically trained. And sure enough, about halfway through that, they all of a sudden jumped up and said they need a water break. Right now, everybody water break. I thought, well, that's strange. And so I walked around the corner of the house where they all were, and there was one millennial there that wasn't looking too good. So I immediately asked him. I said, what happened? So I started to pass out. I saw a tunnel, and I took his pulse, and he was in tachycardia, which is over 100 beats a minute, and he's a runner, so he's really in trouble. And I asked Carrie Sensei to validate it. I didn't have a watch. I was just doing it by counting in my head. And so we moved him in and had to get him cooled down, which he argued because I was going to get his hair wet. And I said,
really? That was his thing as
yeah. You want to die? I mean, come on, shut up, And I was just solely focused on taking care of him. And we got him wet, and I got ice bags on his wrists. And about 2 or 3 minutes later, he goes, "Ouch!" I said, "What do you mean, ouch?" He goes, "The ice is cold on my wrist." I said, "Yeah. That's the idea. It's getting your blood cold, going to your head. That's what we want to do." So anyway, it all worked out fine. I said, hey, if we don't have your pulse down correctly in 15 minutes, I'm going to pull the plug on you, and we'll keep on going forward. But no, he recovered fine. And the Travel Channel, I have to say, was very appreciative of us taking care of him. They actually called and thanked us. And that's pretty cool.
Well, those workman comp claims nowadays.
Yeah, I guess so. It wouldn't be in my group.
So this kind of leads.
No, we took good care of it.
This kind of leads all back into the men who stare at goats. So you were in the military, I take it?
Oh yes, U.S. Army. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I guess that's and Ron Johnson. Am I pronouncing that correctly? John Ronson, I'm sorry, was the author of a book, and here's the synopsis from the book. And it is The Men Who Stare Goats. The story is about what happens when a small group of men highly placed within the United States military, the government, and the intelligence services begin believing in very strange things. In 1979, a secret unit was established by the most gifted minds within the U.S. Army, defying all known accepted military practice and, indeed, the laws of physics. They believed that a soldier could adapt a cloak of invisibility, pass cleanly through walls, and perhaps most chillingly, kill goats by just by staring at them. Entrusted with defending America from all known adversaries, they were the 1st Earth Battalion, and they really weren't joking. That's what's more, they're back and fighting the War of Terror. So you were actually part of this unit? I'm assuming that all of this is pretty much declassified now information?
Oh, yeah, no, very, very much so. Colonel Channon, who has since died, he was essentially the founder of the 1st Earth Battalion. And it started, he was 173rd Airborne Commander in Vietnam with 3 tours, I think. And what he noticed, which is what we all notice, you put a guy on point, that's a person's out, anywhere from 200 meters to 400 meters in front of the group, and the sacrificial lamb in many cases, they get murdered right off the bat, but some of them seem to be able to sense danger in front of them. And Colonel Channon was very aware that they were, and then other ones just walking right into ambushes. And so he tried to figure out, well, what's going on there? And if he could figure that out and teach it to the Army, the whole concept of super soldiers became born from that period of time. And so fast forward, he got a chance when he came out of Vietnam. I was somewhat jealous of the whole thing. He got a chance to be paid for a year to go up and down the coast of California and engage himself in these New Age groups. And, of course, do drugs and have sex. and he got paid for that. I go, whoa, wait a minute. I never got paid for anything like that. What? Anyway, what he did is he came out with a set of concepts for super soldiers. And walking through walls was one of them, although the theory is reasonable. The physics doesn't support it. That comes later. And I'm also, like I say, an engineer and quasi-physicist, so I understand that stuff. And he made a manual, and that became the 1st Earth Battalion Manual, and he gave that talk to the War College in Leavenworth, and it was like throwing in a hand grenade to them to really think out of the box. And one of the things Colonel Channon always talked about was the Army doesn't think very cunning, and we need more cunning thinking, amongst other things. And so he cherry-picked from a boatload of different concepts and wove it into the 1st Earth Battalion. In the movie, they call it the 1st Earth Army, but same thing. Parallel that with the staring at goats, and unlike the movie, I mean, Clooney plays me in the movie, but in the movie, Clooney is the one that kills the goat. I never did that. I always said I never saw a goat on the battlefield, although I have talked to Marines from Iraq that have seen them, so they may be out there, but, and not only, and the truth isn't still yet known, he actually killed 2. A guy by the name of Guy Savelli. And unfortunately or unfortunately, that's what led John Ronson to me, is he thought it was Michael and Channis, who was a spec ops guy, like myself. But in hunting down Michael and Channis, they landed on me, and then I moved John Ronson and his team on to Camp Pendleton in 2004. And after 9/11, there were no foreigners allowed, civilian foreigners allowed on our military bases. So the fact that I could walk them right in, that was very impressive for them. and off we went with that. So I did use a Defender. It used to be called a Predator at the time. Now it's called a Defender, a self-defense tool. And I knew for sure that if I didn't get him at the wrong end of that, on the working end, he would go back and say, well, it looks like it hurt, but I don't know. So if you watch the Crazy Rulers of the World Part 1, which I'm in, you will see that he is definitely captivated at the end of my Defender, big time. And then we had a lesson on some paranormal worlds where you get in somebody's head, and it's like Jedi Knights. We fight with our mind, and we always say, a fight begins, it ends in your mind. And you see lots of literature about that and actual things. It's not paranormal for us, but it seems to be paranormal for others. So when the Travel Channel came, there were three things they wanted to do. One was a conversation about the 1st Earth Battalion, which we had until the guy had a heat stroke, and we gauged that again. Then we had a Defender class, and then we had a night ops, a ninja night ops is what we call it, which is kind of the ground zero for how the whole 1st Earth Battalion began. And so for them to be able to experience that at night, I had one of my best guys, Kerry Lewis, leading their side. I was leading the hunter-killer team that's going to hunt them down and kill them, and they had to come take a hostage out of our compound here, and lots of twists and turns all the way along. So they got a chance to really experience that, and they also, oddly enough, got a chance to experience some paranormal stuff that I think I had a camera on me, and the camera's on them, and I'm talking about what I would do, and we can get more into that, but they actually experienced it and used mental projection to get through this mission. And I'm talking about it on one side, and they're actually doing it on the other, and we had no communication with them at all. So it was pretty cool. They got what they wanted.
So
we should be season 1. Episode 6 is my best guess. They said that it was the best shooting that they've had to that date. You know, they were just enthralled with it completely.
Well, that sounds like fun. I was going to, the whole reason why I was leading into that is because I used to, I still do when I get the opportunity, but it's on, so late at night. I'd listened to Coast to Coast AM with, first it was Art Bell, and now it's George Norrie. But they talk about basically what is called remote viewing, and how what you guys did then has kind of led into what is considered remote viewing now. And it's kind of, I don't think it's ever been discussed outside of the realm of Coast to Coast AM, but I always found it fascinating.
Let me tell you the practical side of that. I'm a very practical person. A lot of people are kind of pie in the sky, but hey, it's got to work and it's got to be, real, or else I'm not really much interested in it. I got a chance to meet a gentleman by the name of Jack Houck in a classified program in L.A., and everybody kept saying I had to meet him. I didn't know why.
Do you know now, though, why?
Yes, I think I do. I do think. I have his original writings here. I'd be glad to send you a copy. Pretty crazy. He started the psychokinesis, spoon bending, metal bending, that became part of the 1st Earth Battalion. But more importantly, I got connected with SRI and the RAND Corporation in the original looking at getting the best remote viewers and what they could or couldn't do, and that was all headed for Reagan's 84 ballistic missile treaty with Russia, as well as some psychic spying over in China. They had a cruise missile. I worked in the cruise missile world lots, so the actual remote viewing that we did with two corporations not even knowing, they don't know about each other, we gave them a latitude and longitude to an island in the South Pacific where we actually put a destroyer at anchor and asked them to remote view it. Out of the 30 or 30-plus people, 10 got close, 8 wasn't bad, 5 were right smack on the money, And then there was 3 or 4 that were way the heck off base. And so the one we focused on the ones that seemed to get it right. They actually saw the number on the side of the ship. But other ones saw a fire. They saw a ship on fire sinking at this island. They got the island right. And people drowning and burning up. And, well, that wasn't the case. Well, it turns out we weren't as smart as we thought we were. 1917, 16, right in there, a wooden cruise ship got caught on fire, and the captain deliberately grounded the ship on that island. We did not know that till later. And then people were jumping off, being on fire. So the shock of the whole thing was that the remote viewing can span time. And that was big-time news. So that kind of opened things up.
Well, I am speaking with Dr. Peter Brusso, and he's basically the most interesting man in the world, and we got a lot more to talk about, including some other things going on with his life and everything else going on with him. I just have to take a hard break at the moment. And welcome back to Pop Culture Kaboom Radio Show on 95.1 FM KNBC, and live. Boy, my thought process went somewhere else all of a sudden. My brain's faster than my mouth. Live in Carson City / Reno area, and live streamed to the world at knbc.org. And I was trying to actually think of the best way to lead into this next segment here, because I'm speaking with Dr. Peter Brusso, but he's also a master of martial arts, Peter Brusso, and you've been doing martial arts since you were 6 years old. As you discussed earlier, but you're going to be launching zero gravity fighting. What is zero gravity fighting?
So glad you should ask that. Being a subject matter expert with the United States Marine Corps and dealing with trying to teach 18-year-olds to land on foreign soil and kill with their bare hands, there's going to come a day when, in fact, we're going to have ships in outer space, and everything that we do on Earth does not work in zero gravity. So the whole art has got to change. And I started working on what that would look like, and the rules of what that would look like. And so I want to start that fighting concept and then take it maybe to the UFC, where we actually fight in chambers, environmental chambers. There will be Marines landing on foreign planets, and they may have to work in lower partial pressures than we have here, 14.7 psi, which means you're going to have to really reserve yourself, and maybe in lesser gravity or even more gravity. So I wanted to start to spawn the idea of how you would fight in zero gravity on ships. And we're not going to fight aliens. We're going to fight the Chinese. We're going to fight the Russians, whomever, is up there with us that might want to take over something. And somebody has to be thinking about that, and I think I'm that guy. So, at least for right now. So, zero gravity is something fighting. I mean, think this out. You like being in a swimming pool, try to punch somebody. The water is 600 times denser than air. You can't punch anybody. You can't kick anybody. You're going to have to get a hold of them and do something different. And even our wrist locks, you put a wrist lock on somebody in the pool, and they just kind of spin right out of it. So everything that we're used to on Earth, because of gravity, is not going to work up there. So we have to have a different set of rules and techniques and concepts to actually fight in that arena. And that's fighting against a person that is not in a spacesuit. And then we're going to have other ones and how we attack that suit. So I've been thinking about that, as crazy as that might sound, but somebody's got to pitch that ball out for people to play with.
So how do you go about doing zero gravity training for zero gravity fighting in a gravity-based environment?
Well, you start out with lawn chairs that swivel. No, I'm serious, that swivel, right? 2007, in my backyard, there's a video up on my Peter Brusso up on YouTube, and it starts to show the problem. you grab somebody and the lawn chair that's on a swivel swivels away from you. So the first thing you learn very quickly is you have to get your feet around their feet and create a common plane. Once you create a common plane between the two of you, now wrist locks work. Now things work. But up to that point, no way. Then you go in a pool, same problem. Feet can't touch the ground. You're going to have to wrap your legs around them to cause a zero plane that you can work against. And so the first treatise is literally you have to create a common plane. Now, if they're in suits, I've been working on wearable weapons on your suit. And so you can rasp across their suit, their arm. You can't get to any vital targets. It's too densely protected. So you have to attack the suit itself. And so you kind of get the idea. Things have to change. We won't have our standard terrestrial targets with somebody in a suit at all. Won't be there. So you gotta start thinking about that. And they'll harden the suit, obviously. If you get around behind them and pull an air hose out, that'd be great. As soon as you realize that's a problem, they're going to bury that air hose inside that suit. You have no option. Now what do you do? And you're going to have to breach the suit and vent them to the atmosphere, whether it's outside or inside. That's the only way to stop it. Wrist locks won't work, and punches won't work, and kicks won't work. Even it's doubtful whether you would want to fire a firearm in a highly oxygenated environment. You'll burn up the oxygen, blow out that thing. So, it's going to have to take a completely different way of thinking to develop the techniques for our Marines.
So just out of curiosity, are you a big sci-fi buff?
Yeah, I like sci-fi. I don't know too many people that don't. I'm not.
Unfortunately, I do. But
yeah, well, I'm not as big as a lot of people I know. We both know in common. Will State, for example, he's my publicist and guy that writes for me and stuff like that. And he was a ground zero when Hollywood came out to do a reality TV show. I mean, we were ground zero with that, but he's seriously a sci-fi buff.
Oh yeah, we've had many a discussion about science fiction, but I'm kind of curious because the zero gravity fighting kind of gets into the realm of more hard science fiction. Like I was just kind of curious if you ever saw The Expanse.
Oh, I did. The first 2 seasons.
Does that,
season 3.
You being from an engineering background and kind of taking this concept of zero gravity fighting with how things are done in The Expanse and how it is written and all of that, do you think that they're are they really sticking to the hard science in regards to how space fighting would actually probably take place?
Probably not, but it looks good. OPA, for example, the whole Mars thing and, the generations being evolved in a low gravity, world. I mean, it's a very fascinating thing. I'm more apt to really like the stealth ships because I was in the stealth technology world, cruise missiles and airplanes. So, I understood that really well. But, yeah, so... but it is mind-bending, and that's a good thing.
Well, I always like the concept that, all of the spacecraft, when they're in a fighting, so like the Resonati or even the stealth ship, the projectiles were actually, they're using rail guns as opposed to actual combustion type. So I always thought that, just as an outside observer and someone who isn't in the military or in the that kind of a technological field, I always thought it was kind of more accurate, and it's kind of interesting hearing somebody who has that kind of background get their take on it as well, to kind of separate the fact from the fiction a little bit,
Yeah, well, a rail gun goes straight. It's electromagnetically fired. So as soon as it comes out of the breech, out of the tube there, it is then subject to air resistance in our case and gravity. Okay, but it's going so fast, those are almost negligible. But they still go straight. What they would need to invent is something that we're started already these days, is a seeker head that actually tracks something and changes its course to continue to track it and fuse that with a railgun projectile, so it doesn't go straight.
So it kind of curves and follows, tracks the
tracks.
That
Right. It tracks. It tracks at these super high speeds, which would be, I would almost believe, impossible to get away from.
Yeah.
A railgun travels so quickly. Yeah, it's just crazy what it does. It's all kinetic energy, there's no blow up or anything. It's just a mass at super high speed slamming into something else, and that something else has to absorb all the energy in that projectile, which is what breaks it all apart.
So
The ship or whatever.
At least from my perspective, then, at least with the rail guns on the Rosinante and the stealth ships, that's kind of realistic. With of course, the rapid fire of projectiles is for because a rail gun isn't really something that it's kind of like at the musket stage at this point. If I'm getting so
Yep. You have to charge those capacitors back up.
Yep.
So it's how fast could you do that? And clearly that'll get faster and faster, and then you put like 6 of them together, like a Gatling gun, like we have with miniguns and on helicopters and stuff like that. That shoot a round for every square inch of a football field in 30 seconds. So they'll get there, but they're not there yet.
So like with a lot of technology. I mean, there's so much of the technology at this point. I think it just has to catch up with, and advance and to make it so that it's to a point in our world where it actually is feasible. Like solar, right now, I think solar energy and all that stuff. I think that's a grand idea. I don't think the technology is quite to where it makes it feasible to be.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed.
It's just one of
the
those
other
things.
thing that they're not talking to you about solar power is if everything had solar panels, it's reflecting the sun off the earth. And what do you think that's going to do? Well, winter time is coming for us if we deploy a boatload of solar panels out there. They're reflecting a good portion of that sunlight back out into space where the earth would normally take it and be warm. So there's going to be a thermal problem.
Yeah,
no one talks about that.
No, or the fact. Well, and the technology itself, all it is what these reflectors basically are heating up water, and that's the whole concept of these solar panels.
That's one of them. That's for solar hot water heaters. The other two basically are parabolic mirrors that will focus onto liquid sodium and potassium, and that you heat up, and that liquid sodium and potassium goes through these tubes and into a heat exchanger to heat water to make steam to run the turbine. That's one. The second one is, of course, voltaic cells that convert sun energy into electrons, which is the one I was talking about. The biggest problem with that is the efficiency is still very low, even though they tell you it's so good, so it really isn't yet. But if you put a bunch of them out there, I'm more concerned about the reflectivity of the sunlight that warms the Earth going back into space.
That's
so.
That's one thing.
That's a problem.
Bill, you have something?
Yeah, I was just wondering: is nuclear power more practical than any of the solar things, or wind, or anything like that?
Would be, no, wind, you kill a bunch of birds, and you don't get a chance. If it's not windy, you don't develop anything. It's really a nice idea, and it's probably not one thing. The real solution to that problem, nuclear is great. I think it's not Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island anymore, but that's great. But fuel cells are probably the real answer in the future, which combine hydrogen and oxygen together in a semi-permeable membrane, and you develop an electron, which you capture, which then you just put these cells together and make a battery. So you can run electric cars, electric anything, and where you get the hydrogen and oxygen is you crack water. You run electricity through it, and it breaks into its two constituent parts. You could do that in your garage, and then literally put that into your car, and when you want to go, you just turn on a valve that lets the two get together and get happy, and you get water. You get water as a byproduct and one electron.
That sounds great. How far away is that?
Oh, hell, we've been using that. Excuse me. Heck, sorry. We've been using that. We've been using that technology. Went up on Apollo. Almost every spacecraft we have has fuel cells on it.
Why am I not filling my car up with water right now, then?
I don't know. Well, you wouldn't fill your car up per se, but you would fill up. You would have water in a system that you crack, and you pull off the hydrogen and oxygen, and those go in the tanks on your car, which can be made safe for crash purposes. And when you want electricity, you just turn a valve on, and it makes water as a byproduct, which will be spit out on the road, and an electron, and off you go. And the places that'll become the new Saudi Arabias, or maybe now the new America, is any place like Canada that has a lot of hydroelectric electricity. They could crack water and then pipe it down the current pipelines that we have now for liquid nitrogen, not liquid nitrogen, but LN, for natural gas. They already exist. They could be piping down hydrogen and oxygen to every house if they wanted to, but more importantly is to have a remote unit that literally takes your water source. It could be your wastewater as well from your house. They call that gray water. That makes gas that you can run an electric vehicle on. So you won't be able to do that on an aircraft. We're going to still always need fossil fuel for that. We're also going to need fossil fuel for lubrication and moving parts. But the rest of it, in less than 10 years, could be converted.
Well, I got a question for you. So if the byproduct of the system of cracking water is water, couldn't that be just recycled in and of itself?
Of course it can. But on your vehicle, you're going to eject it because you don't want the weight. So in like a city like L.A., your byproduct isn't going to be smog. It's going to be some humidity. And it goes up in the clouds, right? And the clouds rain, and we capture that again, right? It's a renewable energy resource. It's closed system. That's
true. Well, dang. And nobody's working on that. All we hear about is solar and wind.
yeah. That's I've got a patent on a fuel cell like that. Anton and I both invented it. Oh gosh, what was this? Maybe 93, 94, somewhere in there. And you want a semi-permeable membrane, which looks like saran wrap. The molecule sizes allow hydrogen gas to go across, but not the oxygen to go across. So you evacuate the hydrogen side, but when you want electricity, you flow some hydrogen in, goes right across the semi-permeable membrane, and bonds with the oxygen to make water in one electron. You have to capture that electron, and we use platinum black to do that, infused in the semi-permeable membrane. But I'm sure that's 25 years old now, but I'm sure there's other technologies now to capture that electron. But the cool part about that is that, let's say you produce 2 volts per cell, and if you want 20 volts for a car, you just add 10 cells. You just bolt them together. Bingo. Done. So it's an approach. Don't know if it's going to go anywhere. Has nothing to do with staring at goats, but it's fun.
But it does play into what I said at the beginning of this conversation. You are the most interesting man in the world, and Dos Equis Beer should be paying you royalties for using your life stories for their commercials.
You're far too kind. Far too kind, but I'll take it.
There's still more I got to talk to you about too. I mean, you're a website creator, an SEO consultant, a website builder. Yep. You're you're a podcaster, author, which I really want to talk to you about. Internet marketing expert and a pilot. All of this stuff that we still need to talk about. And I'm already at my last break for the show. Yep. So we'll be talking more with Dr. Peter Brusso right after this break.
This is KNBC 95.1 FM, Carson City. Listener-supported radio for your community.
And welcome back to Pop Culture Kaboom Radio Show on 95.1 FM KNBC in the greater Carson City / Reno area, and live streamed to the world at knbc.org. And I'm speaking with Dr. Peter Brusso. And I'm going to throw out all of his websites really quick since we're getting close to the end of the show here. He has his website, legendarysenseihood.com. His main marketing and web development site is www.infocard.cc. You can tune into all of his podcasts at 101smallbusinessmastermind.com. His martial arts website is www.awarriorsway, all one word.com. And his videos are at www.brussoshop, all one word.com. And of course, his main website, which is peterbrusso.com. And you have a million websites. I don't know how you keep track of them all.
Yeah, well, the Defender site is pdws.biz. There's a lot of traffic off of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot one.
That's okay. That's where people buy the Defender. But you know what you don't know is I was born and raised in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, really?
And yes, my grandparents, when I was very young, we'd go over to the Silver Dollar Saloon there in Carson. I don't know if Carson City. I don't know if it still exists, but I remember it fondly.
The Silver Dollar Saloon.
Yeah.
I think it's a Silver Dollar. Are you sure it wasn't Virginia City? Because I know there's.
No, it was Carson.
Then I think it might have closed, but I know there's still the Silver City or a Silver Dollar Saloon up in Virginia City.
What year would that have been?
Oh gosh, now you've got me. It would have been 1957, 58 that I remember that.
Wow.
And of course, we go over to Reno and buy school clothes, in the summer, and they used to like to play the nickel slots, and I'd stand outside and act stupid, I guess. I don't know. Lake Tahoe is certainly in my blood, Love it.
So when was the last time you were in the area?
That would have been 19, let me think now, probably 97, 98, somewhere right in there.
Oh, right about
my partner.
That's funny because that's about the time that I moved here.
Well, my partner, physics MIT engineer Anthony Simpson, when I invented it with, we were partners for like 25 years. He got married. He got a place in Donner Lake and converted it. So he got married up there. So I took my twins up there, and we were there for that. And I took them fishing. And the creek that my family has fished for 75 years, still there. Still got trout in it, believe it or not. Yeah, no kidding. I learned to fly up there, too.
You know what trips people out about Tahoe that nobody actually knows, or very few people know or even think about, is that Lake Tahoe actually has salmon.
Of course they do. Steelhead.
Is it steelhead? I know.
Kokanee.
Steelhead is
yeah.
Yeah, well, they have that, too, as a matter of fact. Tahoe, of course, being the deepest lake in North America, 2,600 feet at the end. I've been skiing out there, and you fall down and you're out. You can see down 250 feet, and then it's just blue after that, and you're swimming on top of that. You go, all righty then.
And you're also going, it's cold because you can get hypothermia in the summer.
It's the best place. It's the best place to learn to ski because you don't fall down, not more than once. And that's good. My family used to ski, and then they let go and they ski right on to the shore. I tried that, about killed myself. I wasn't as finesseful as they were.
I would look like a Bugs Bunny cartoon if I tried that, quite honestly.
Yeah, well, I came out of my ski and ran up the side, right in my house, darn near. You have to know when to let go, and it wasn't.
That's true. That's why I don't snow ski, because there's nothing to let go of to stop. So that's why I will never snow ski. I'd end up like Sonny Bono. Yeah. So hopefully I didn't end up. It's sad but true. I would. They'd be playing the Georgia the Jungle theme while I'm going down the hill. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I've seen Squaw Valley a lot, and then up at Donner Pass over there. Yep. So.
Well, it's nice to know that you know the area fairly well.
Local boy makes good.
Yeah. Well, we had almost 1,000 feet on the front on the lake itself in a wedge, Of course, I didn't understand what that really meant. Now, today, you'd die for something like that, to have a huge chunk of land right there at Tahoe Pines. One year we had 22 feet of snow. I had to dig us out of the attic. I had to go out and get the rowboat to get to the regular boat to drive it up to Tahoe City. And Safeway had a dock up there, bought groceries for my grandparents and myself, and drove it back, and then hiked it back into this 22-foot snowbank and back down into the house. I'll never forget that one.
I wouldn't either. That'd be miserable for me. I'm from Florida, so I'm not a snow guy at all. So
yeah, they don't have much snow in Florida. I just got back from Florida. Yeah, they don't have much snow back there.
No, my older brother lives in Jacksonville still, and it's kind of funny because the one time it snowed actually in Jacksonville when I lived there. It started to snow, and immediately my parents put us in the van, and back down to Key West we went. So, and it was funny because as we got further south, as we were driving down the Florida Panhandle down to Key West, the snow reports got more exaggerated the further south we went. Suddenly it was like 3 inches and 5 inches of snow in Jacksonville, but I guess it was only like maybe like what's considered a dusting. But it was just kind of amusing.
Key West is the most awesome and bizarre place on the face of the earth.
That it is.
They have that parade each year.
Yeah.
What the hell? The name of that parade?
I can't remember. I know that my little brother is an actual conch because he was born there.
Oh. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, I had a voiceover talent that actually used to. He was a radio host down there, and he did the Fantasy Fest is what they call it. That's what it is. The Fantasy Fest every year. So I got a chance to see a lot of that. That's crazy stuff you guys got down there. much better than Mardi Gras, let me tell you.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy sometimes, especially around Mallory Square down there. So, but anyway, I digress. Apologize for dragging you down with me. So Night Ninja Ops and everything else that you're doing. And is this part of what you do with the U.S. Marine Corps with the MSMC MAP program?
The MCMAP program, the answer is no. I helped develop that in 2004, so I'm the only civilian that I know of that is allowed to go on base and teach MCMAP, and I get invited all the time. And I actually don't teach MCMAP to them because they have instructor trainers to do that. So I open their minds up to weapons disarms and the defender, just give them a different way of thinking about things. The Ninja Night Ops we started, long ago, and the Travel Channel was here. They wanted to do one, and of course they picked the hardest one, and you usually kind of build your skill sets up to that, but they wanted a hostage extraction, which is the most difficult one to do. So we train them. We have a Nerfized blowgun that I developed many years ago. So you get shot with these darts, and you get shot because it hurts like hell. Sorry. And so we sent the team out, and then I have a hunter-killer team that is to track them down and kill them. So they know that somebody's hunting them. So it makes it really far more real. They have to really do their stuff. And so I also taught them some of the paranormal stuff. In Ninja's world, our number one enemy is a dog. The second one is a woman. So I taught them how to image yourself feeding the dog, project that image and send it to the dog. The dog's barking. You're going to get this idea in his head that there's some steak nearby, and it's going to shut up. That's exactly what happened to these guys coming down. I was sitting out with the hostage, and I asked her, she's a 22-year-old, another millennial, lucky me, and I asked her, did you know what Stockholm Syndrome was? She did not. So I explained what Stockholm Syndrome was. So when the team comes in to get you, you're going to resist at all costs. And by the way, she did so well. It was unbelievable what she did. My whole thing is to keep the hostage extraction team in a certain volume so they can be killed. The longer I can keep them in there, the better the hunter-killer team can come in and wipe them out. That's that part of the theory. But so all of a sudden we hear a mariachi band kick up out here. It was a Saturday night. That's not unusual. And I told the camera crew, I said, hey, if I was Kerry Sensei, I'd go right to that mariachi band because you can move as fast as you want, make as much noise as you want. Nobody's ever going to hear you. That's exactly what he did. And I said, however, there's a dog on the other side of that mariachi band that's going to light up. 30 seconds later, lady dog lit up barking, and then all of a sudden she stopped barking. Okay, that's odd. And then she started barking again about 2 or 3 minutes after that. I got thinking, geez, did they break up into 2 pieces, you know? I'm trying to second guess where they're coming, you know, what's going on out there, but what I'm hearing. Anyway, long story short, they took the host who was in our camo and switched him with the guy with the heat stroke that was on a camera. And so Kerry Sensei would let him and the camo guys come in to play, and they were supposed to use their blowguns to shoot these full man-sized targets that we have out there, like sentries, right? And all of a sudden I see this guy in civilian clothes run in with a defender and start hacking up these targets. Turns out to be the host. They switched the host camo with the camera guy, so they'd all be killed, but the host would get through, which was very brilliant on Kerry Sensei's part. And next thing I know, this guy, like I say, and no camo comes running in to get this girl, Haley. And Haley's screaming, "Nah, I can't go. I can't leave Sensei. I'm not going. She jumps up, runs behind the garage inside my compound, and he takes off after her. I'm going, well, this is interesting. She does know how to Stockholm Syndrome this thing. This is good. You know, she's actually doing really good. She grabbed onto a palm tree. They pried her off of that. Grabbed her. I showed her some easy things to get away from these guys. She did that, grabbed a ladder that's on the floor, the ground, and they had to pry her off that. She broke away from the grab, ran back, and sat in the chair next to me. I'm not going. And the host comes up and says, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm trying to save you. What are you doing? It was perfect. You could not make this stuff up. Anyway, they had to physically carry her out to our beach where we have palapa, which is a grass, palm thing you see on Baja, you know, the palm umbrella that's permanent, right? So we went out there for our debrief, and lo and behold, I told them about Lady Dog. And so both Kerry Sensei and Christopher, the host, mentally projected feeding the dog steak, and the dog shut up, just like I said they would do. And they were amazed how well that worked. And they kept that thought projection until they got past the dog. And then they had to start thinking about how they're going to get in the compound, what they have to do next. So they broke off that thought, and the dog starts barking again. It couldn't have been planned better. And yet they learned exactly the beginning of the 1st Earth Battalion. It's right toe-to-toe out there in the dark, projecting things and being quiet and moving through the whole thing. So they got their money's worth that night for sure.
And this, of course, is going to be Strange World, possibly episode 6 on the Travel Channel. I only got 5 minutes of show left and so much more to talk. I could talk to you for hours because there's so much I didn't get in. But real quick, do you do any public appearances like at cons or any kind of bookstores or anything like that? And do you have any coming up?
No, nothing like that. If people want to experience a Ninja Night Ops, get a hold of me. We do it out here in the desert where there's no light. And if you want to, in the 1st Earth Battalion, we're going to resurrect it now, but we're the official martial unit, and our tagline is Dare to Experience the Unthinkable. And we do that out here.
Definitely interesting stuff. Again, if you want to get a hold of Dr. Peter Brusso, his websites are legendarysenseihood.com, www.infocard.cc, 101smallbusinessmastermind.com, www.awarriorsway.com, www.brussoshop.com, And I'm not going to miss this one this time. pdws.biz if you want to check out the Defender's knife, and also his personal page at peterbrusso.com. He's also on the Facebook, and I follow him on the Facebook. So time you have something coming up, I will automatically post it to the Pop Culture Kaboom Facebook page. It was an honor and a privilege speaking with you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Would love to have you on again, and because like I said, there's a lot we did not talk about, like the whole the author thing and the books you've written or any of that other stuff. So there's a whole bunch more I'd love to talk to you about, but unfortunately I am out of time. You have a good night, sir, and I will talk to you through email here right after the show. For everyone else,
thank you, Jimmy.
For everyone else, a big thank you for all of you tuning in, no matter where you are or what hour it is where you live. I truly appreciate it. If you are an independent comic book creator, filmmaker, television showrunner, writer in any field, game company or game creator, toy company involved in a theater production, burlesque company, a con organizer, or a band with a flair for the theatrical, let me know what you have going on by sending me an email at nvbooking@charter.net. Please include a biohistory of what you do and how to get a hold of you, and that way I can have you on the show and or present your projects to my listening audience. Tune in next week for more news, information, and stuff that is coming out for the coming week, and I will have a special interview with Pharaoh Kane, one of the best in the world of rare and exotic art and acquisitions, and creator of the graphic novel series The Chronicles of Pharaoh. We'll be talking about his writing, the artwork, and what he has coming up in the very near future. This will be an interesting conversation for anyone who is into fantasy art, comic book art, and artists in general. So until next week, from Bill, Tony, 95.1 FM KNBC, and myself, don't forget to check out the YouTube channel for all of the stuff I was not able to get to this week. But with that being said, tomorrow's Memorial Day, so have a good Memorial Day holiday. Be safe, and peace out, Wabbits.